Good morning, you motherfucking sunshines. It's gonna be a great fucking day. It's gonna be a great fucking day. It's gonna be a great fucking day. I have to tell myself that every morning, just like that, to get through a fucking work day. Holy shit. Alright, mofos, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna pick up where we left off last week with some more wildlife photos. This whole series is probably gonna take 37 years because I've taken a shit ton of images. But since I can't be out on trail, this is the best I can do, and reminisce a little bit about what I've taken. I need to take a fucking day off of work and actually get out with my camera and take some more photos, but in the meantime, we'll reminisce a little bit on some of the images I have taken. So, let's pick up some more wildlife shots, man. So, when I got back home from the CDT, I found myself in Georgia, staying there for a while, and I basically quit a couple jobs, so I had a lot of free time at the moment. So I basically just sat out every day on the front porch, photographed birds, and wander out through the woods that I had by the house and photographed what animals I could that were in the surrounding area. So the first image we're going to look at is actually not of a wildlife animal, but of my basset hound Roscoe P. Waggletails. We're going to throw this image in this video just because I love this image so much. This is my favorite image I've taken of Roscoe. He's an old man now. I got Roscoe P. Waggletails when he was about that big. He could fit in the palm of my hand. I got him 1 week after I decided to, or 1 week before I decided to get sober. So he was a big part of me actually deciding to get sober and continuing my sobriety. Without him, I would have been in rough shape for sure. A lot worse off than I was anyway. But Roscoe, over the years, now being 10 years old, he is getting stubborn and stubborn as shit. He's always been stubborn. I mean, he's a basset hound, but I do like taking photos of him from time to time. He is horrible to take photos of because he never sits still. His nose never stops going. So getting him to look at me in the camera rather than burying his nose in the ground is very difficult. I usually have to bribe him. The way I took this images was with my 70 to 200, I believe. And you see the log he's jumping over. I set there was a little bit of opening right here in the woods, just enough for this log. So to get him to follow that pathway, I put this little log there. I stood back from from him about, well, I don't know, it's probably 30 or 40 feet away. And obviously I bribed him with treats, had him run, and because this opening was so narrow, he had no choice but to jump over this log. I probably made this poor little guy jump over this log 10 or 12 times to get this shot. We kept trying and trying and trying, and sometimes he wasn't centered, sometimes he just kind of just hobbled over the log, but eventually I was able to get this shot. It was awesome, and everything came together. Yeah, it looks like he's flying over the log. He's pretty agile for a basset hound, believe it or not, but I just love how his ears are straight out, and then he's got one paw up, one paw back. Then you can see his big ass tail coming up behind him. It was beautifully blurred out in the background, nice and centered. And yeah, Roscoe ate good that day because I rewarded him with many treats, and it was well deserved. He was pretty wore out after this photo shoot, but I'm glad I took that shot, and I need to blow this image up and throw it on my wall because I love it that much. It's been my screensaver on my phone and my laptop for years and years since I've taken it, so quite proud of that one. Well done, Roscoe P. Waggletails. Alright, so when I was staying in Georgia, as I mentioned, I had plenty of free time on my hands, and I got really into bird photography. I became a bird obsessed. I set up my ground blind by this dead log you see here, and set up a couple feeders, and I would sit for hours and hours and hours in this photo blind, just watching the same birds come in and out every single day, all day. I probably have, I don't know, 10 or 12 different species of birds on this same log. I did have to make sure the feeder, which you can't see if I were to pan out of this image, the feeder is just off frame here. Obviously you don't want the feeder in shot, so I put the feeder just off frame, and then I threw a bird seed within this log, so that they would come to the feeder first, and then they would see that there's more seed in this log and jump from the feeder to to the log, and that's how I got them to get on this this log here and get these shots. Yeah, the patience was everything. I just fired off shots all day long. I would probably take 1,000, 2,000 images in a day to maybe get 1 or 2 photographs that I was pleased with. This happened to be a beautiful shot of a red cardinal. Watching birds for about a year straight, obsessing over them, I got to know their personalities, believe it or not, fairly well. Birds are amazing creatures. I know we take them for granted because we see them every single day of our lives, but when you really take the time to sit down with these birds and watch their behaviors, it's pretty fucking interesting. What I realized and what I found out from watching these birds and different species come into the same feeder day in, day out, cardinals and blue jays are the most savage fucking birds in the kingdom. They are savage animals, man. There would be other tits or whatever, chickadees that were feeding on the feeder. And with no fail, eventually a cardinal or a blue jay would show up and kick every single bird off the feeder. I mean, they were very aggressive, alpha birds. And they didn't take any shit. Like, I'm the biggest one around here. This is my food. Get the fuck out of my way. It happened time and time again. It was pretty fun to watch. And some of these little birds they apparently had little man syndrome, and they would try to stick up to these cardinals. It never failed. The cardinals won every single time. I mean, they're savage animals. But this is a beautiful shot right here. I love the background of this. Obviously you can't tell what it is. It's just backdrops of trees. I have this nice straight alleyway behind my feeder there, so it was all open space basically, so I could blur out the background. But I would play around the position of my camera many times because depending on where the trees were lined up and where the sun was in the day or in the evening or morning where I was filming would change the change the backdrop and the color of the image basically. This was, I believe, taken at dawn, just after sunrise. So it's a nice moodier image with a grayer background, which I really love, and it's a good contrast between the red of the cardinal itself. But yeah, I just like how he's looking dead nuts straight in my eyes, like, I will fuck you up too. This is my area, so get out. But yeah, it was a blast photographing these birds for about a year, man. I do miss it. It was good times. Nobody bothered me. I would just sit up there for hours on end with Roscoe and a thermos of coffee and just watch these birds all day long. It was pretty cool. All right, next image, we're gonna move it up to Virginia here. This is taken in Grayson Highlands. For people who have through like the AT or done that section of the AT, you all know about the feral ponies that live out there. I have video footage on my YouTube channel, which I'll put in a clip for you guys. These damn horses would harass me, and they'd come up there and they'd steal your trekking poles because all the salt on your handles and try to chew your trekking poles. These horses are fucked. There's actually a hilarious video on it was on Instagram. I don't know if it's on YouTube. You can still find it. But through hiker getting kicked in the nuts by one of these ponies. But yeah, please don't feed these animals. They're just out there, you know, cutting the grass basically. You get too close to these things, they will defend themselves like any other animal would. So please, when you go to Virginia, go to the Grayson Highlands, steer clear of them, get some good photos. They'll come right up to you, but please just, you know, try to be respectful of it and don't feed them for sure. But yeah, this is I like how this is framed with the bushes in the foreground here framing the horse, and then the beautiful Virginia backdrop there. It was I thought it turned out well. This is taken around golden hour, so it's a nice golden light there in the image, and the sun that's low in the sky is actually shining on the horse. You can see the highlights on the horse itself. I think turned out really well, and I just love the position this horse is in right now, looking back, almost like posing for me. But I took a million images of these ponies when I was at Grayson Highlands. This isn't on my through hike, but this is after the fact when I came back. I've done that section of trail multiple times, so this is just one of my trips I've taken since my through hike. All right, next image, we're going to take it up to Scotland, man. This is on the Scottish National Trail. I think I posted an image on an Instagram story before I went on that trip, and I was seriously debating taking my big-ass wildlife lens out there. Thankfully, I thought better of myself, and that's just, the camera and the lens itself weighs about 6 pounds, just that setup, so I would have been hurting. For the very few images I would have gotten with that wildlife lens, I wanted to get some good pictures of some stags. They were just too far away with my wide-angle lens, but, you know, looking back now, I'm glad I did take it because it just would have been a nightmare carrying that weight on my back on a through hike. But This was taken, I did carry my 70-200, and this was taken with that lens. This horse got fairly close to me, so I was able to get a decent shot of him. This is taken, so there was this bothy, I can't remember exactly where it was. It was up in the Highlands somewhere, but there was this bothy, right? And it was next to this long ass lake, and I pulled up there, and it's just weird to me. And I mentioned this, I think, in the last Scottish video, of these sheep just hanging around these ruins, like out of the middle of nowhere. It was the same case with this horse right here. It was a fenced in area around the bothy, but this horse was just chilling. I'm sure there are owners that come and, you know, check up on him from time to time, but it was just weird to me when I showed up that, like, I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere in Scottish Highlands, and there's a solo horse by itself. But it was cool. I loved petting these horses. I met a few of them on the trail, but this one I spent a good long while with, and got some decent photos of him. This is my favorite of him, just because of the light, the moodiness of Scotland with the backdrop, and then the golden grass that he's standing in. I just thought it was a very Scottish image, very beautiful. Yeah, he looked very healthy, and he was well taken care of, even though it seemed like he was living out there by himself all day, every day. Love that image. All right, now we're going to go on to a very interesting animal, sarcasm intended, but this is just a standard squirrel. You know, people say, you know, I've got comments before where, like, well, I live in Iowa or I live in Kansas and there's no cool wildlife to take a photo of. That's bullshit, okay? Birds and squirrels are everywhere in the country, okay, and the world, and they are fun creatures to photograph. If that's all you got, take some badass images of squirrels and chipmunks and birds, man. They're fun to watch, and they make for some really cool images. There was an Instagram or YouTuber I used to follow from Sweden. I can't remember her name. If I remember, I'll put it up here right now for you, but her whole channel is based on squirrels. That's it. And she's an amazing photographer, amazing videographer. You should definitely check out. I think it's Danny is her name. She's from Sweden, but she just lives in this cottage in the middle of nowhere, and she just feeds and photographs squirrels like every day of her life. So they are cool creatures to photograph. This was taken at Rocky Mountain National Park, actually on the YMCA campus when I worked there in Estes Park. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell from the image, but it was snowing when I took this image. And I just love it. Just added to the image because, you know, he's got the snow coming off his hair and he's looking up at the snow like, here we go again. Winter we're in the heart of winter, and I gotta survive this, and I gotta load up on acorns and everything else. But yeah, this was a lucky shot right here. I was walking out into Rocky Mountain National Park to go find some carcasses to photograph, maybe some coyotes that day, and before I even got to the park, I just happened to hear this this squirrel crying or barking or whatever they do, and I looked up, and then I just spent a good 10-15 minutes walking around this tree. And they're very skittish animals to photograph, very difficult because they don't want to be photographed. They will hide from you, obviously, but luckily he was able to get out on this branch right here, and I snapped a shot of him. I probably fired off 10 or 15 shots right in this one right here, and this is the best one that came out of him just looking up. Yeah, with the snow coming down, I just thought, I'm just really happy I got that image. It was very cool to get home and edit this one. Really enjoyed that photograph. All right, we're gonna stay in Rocky Mountain National Park here. This is of a great horned owl. Amazing, amazing creatures. I followed this same great horned owl for 4 or 5 weeks. I just happened to be walking down the river I used to walk quite often there next to the Y, and you know, other animals, when getting into wildlife photography, I realized other animals will give you a heads up on what's going on in the surrounding area. It's just the way the nature works. And the way I found coyotes was a lot of times from magpies. Magpies, you see them making a lot of ruckus, it means they're feeding on a carcass. Same thing with owls. Chipmunks and squirrels and everything else, they will yell at owls for whatever reason. So I was having me walking along this river, and I heard a lot of chatter from squirrels. I'm like, what the fuck is going on over there? Well, closer and closer I got, I happened to look up in this tree, and there sat this great horned owl. Other birds will warn you about owls too. They don't like other birds in their territory. So if you hear a lot of chatter from other birds too, maybe there's an owl around that area. But yeah, I just happened to look up, and this great horned owl was just sitting in the tree. And it was weird to me when I first encountered this owl that he didn't care that I was there. He was just chilling. Well, the next time I came back, when I saw him again, I just sat up with my camera, gave him his distance, and again, he wasn't fazed by the fact that I was there. Well, the second time I came up on him, I sat with probably 4 hours just watching this owl, taking some video and some photographs, and then with my luck, I had my video rolling at the time and watched him regurgitate a pellet. The pellet is what they call the remains of like the squirrels that they eat. They can't digest hair or bones. So what an owl will do is they'll eat the animal and then they'll sit up in a tree as they digest, very similar like maybe a snake does, where they don't move after they've eaten a rodent. They just need to digest this animal. So these owls sit up in the tree, and then I had the video going and I watched him kind of like do what a dog does, head back and forth, and all of a sudden he opened his mouth and then out spat the pellet. It was pretty cool to see, and I didn't know they did that, quite honestly, until I observed this owl for months and months and days. Pretty interesting. And I actually went and picked up one of these pellets after he had left, and I had it for a while. I don't know what happened to it, but they're just amazing creatures. They're the silent killers, man. There's a cool video on YouTube of these guys set up a bunch of microphones along the straight line, and they had a trainer on one end and then they had the owl on the other. Well, they would have the different birds of prey fly across these microphones. They had like a hawk and different birds of prey, and when they fly across these microphones, you just hear their wings woo woo woo, and then the last owl goes, and I think it was a barred owl, don't quote me on that, but this owl flew across these microphones, dead silence. It was pretty cool to watch. I guess it's the way their feathers are laid out on their wings, and that's why they're such great hunters, because they don't make a sound when they go to attack a rodent or a squirrel or whatever. Yeah, they're just amazing creatures. And I got to watch this same, he would go up and hunt on the same area and go up and digest his squirrel on the same tree for weeks. I watched this same owl. Pretty cool animals. And this image right here, I just love the fact that I've got a million images of this owl, but just the fact that he's looking dead at me with those big, beautiful eyes. I wish there wasn't so much clutter around him with the branches and stuff. Kind of takes away from the image, but you know, beggars can't be choosers at this point. As a wildlife photographer, you take what you can get for sure. All right, guys, next image is of amazing osprey. I had never witnessed ospreys ever in my life until moving to Estes Park. This is down at Lake Estes, right in town there. So I mentioned in the last wildlife video that I would go down and photograph eagles. That's why I originally went down to Lake Estes, was just to find eagles. Little did I know, after talking to some locals around there, that there's this big power plant next to the lake, right? And there's this big pole with a platform on top of it. Assuming they built that for a nest for these osprey. They go and nest at Lake Estes, as do the eagles, every single year. Well, the summer I was there, I had caught word from a local that these guys were down there, so I went down there, obviously, and sure enough, there they were. These osprey are some of the best fishermen in the bird kingdom. I think when I Googled it last time, and don't quote me on this, I think this is what I found out on the internet, and the internet is always true, that when these things fly down in the water to catch a fish, 70% of the time they come out with a fish. They're very accurate when they dive down, and they are impressive to watch. So these osprey, their nest on that pole was way up high. It was very difficult to photograph them while they're in their nest. I do have some amazing footage of 3 ospreys, 2 males fighting over a female, which I'll put in right here. Following those osprey on video was very difficult, as you can see from the video. It's very shaky, but I did the best I could. But they would, you couldn't photograph them really well. That video was cropped in extremely tight, and the footage isn't the greatest. But what these osprey would do is to go to fish, since they were so up high on their perch, they would come down to this tree right here, right by probably 20 feet above the lake. And that's where they would set up their hunting grounds, and they would sit on this tree and dive down into the water and catch trout. It was pretty awesome to watch. My goal during all this whole thing, coming down photographing them for the summer, was to get a shot of them with a fish in their talons. I was never able to get one close up from this tree. I did film some footage of them while they take their fish up to the perch, but it was so far away it's hard to see it. They would also sit up on those power lines with the fish and eat them there. But I did get some good images from this tree itself, as they would sit here and scan the water for fish. I have another amazing image I'll try to find for you too of this same osprey with his wings up. It's just a lot of spray and pray with these things. You just fire off as many shots. You kind of have to anticipate when they're going to move and then just fire off shots when they do. It's a split second. You have to be really attentive of what you're doing with these things, because a split second and they're gone. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of on the readiness to get a shot. But I'm proud of this one. I like the fact that its eyes are glowing in this shot. I did have to do some Photoshop on this image. There was a lot of branches in the way behind him, which kind of took away from him. So I did Photoshop a lot of the branches out behind him to make for this nice clear black background, but quite proud of this image right here. All right, guys, we'll do a couple more here for you. This isn't like the most spectacular photo in the world, but it's got a pretty cool story behind it. This is a solo elk, obviously no antlers. Everybody wants to see those big racks, but I took this image for a reason. I was sitting down there, this is Lake Estes again, sitting down here at the lake and photographing eagles and osprey for this day. It was a very slow morning. There wasn't much activity as far as eagles go. So just sitting there drinking my coffee by the lake, and I look up and all of a sudden there is a herd of 70 elk swimming across this lake in a straight line right in front of me. I mean, right in front of me. They were halfway across the lake, but it was just the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in wildlife. There's a herd of this elk that live in the Estes Park. They literally walk down the sidewalks. They hang out at the golf course. I mentioned that one elk came into town behind the coffee shop. They're everywhere in Estes Park, and that's why there's so many idiot tourists around there. But yeah, I have another cool image. I don't know if I can find it, but of the herd as in a row across the lake. The reason I like this photo so much is this is the last elk to cross. And when he came up on this berm right here, he kind of got up on this berm and then he stopped. He looked at me, looked behind him to make sure his whole crew had made it across safe, and then he walked on off the frame. I thought that was a cool moment, that he was kind of looking out for his friends and his family and making sure that nobody was left behind, and then he kind of strolled on. It was a cool moment, and I'll cherish that one forever. To see a herd of like 70 elk swim across the lake was pretty fucking awesome. All right, guys, a couple more images here. This bird shot, this duck shot, as to say, is one of my top probably 5 images I've ever taken in my life. Just the colors alone in this image I think are amazing. There are some things that I don't like about it as well, which we'll touch on, but overall, this image is just fucking cool, man. This was taken in Rocky Mountain National Park at Sprague Lake. From the YMCA campus, I used to trail run and hike this. It was only like 3.5 miles to Sprague Lake from the Y. And I used to go there quite often. And there's always moose in there. I always saw moose. I saw one eagle over there one time. But the main thing you see, obviously, is ducks and geese over there. Well, I went over there one day to check out, see if there was any moose. There wasn't that day. So, I just wanted to sit by the lake and enjoy myself. Had my camera with me, obviously. And these ducks were just chilling right by the bank. So I kind of tucked in behind some bushes, and I would scare them away, and then I just had to be patient. Wildlife photography is all about patience. So I sat there for about an hour until they felt comfortable to come back to this area. These guys swam up, and I just started firing off shots for about an hour with these guys. Awesome shot. I mean, this was just timing is all it is. You fire off a million images to hope and pray that one of them turned out well. This was my favorite one, obviously, with his wings spread. And like I said, the colors alone are amazing. With the backdrop, this is around dusk right here. And then the water there was no wind, so you can see how still the water is, which adds to it. The only thing I think that would make this image better, a couple things actually, is if I had more of the water included in it, or I was a little higher up to where you could see his reflection, and the water would have added to the image, as well as obviously the other duck that is in front of him is kind of taken away from him. But to Photoshop him out of there, it would have messed up the image, I think, because part of his wing would have been cut off. But I'm not complaining too much. Yeah, I'm very proud of this image. And then another duck. This is on another encounter, same lake, same scene really, of this other duck, same species but different duck. I did get a little bit of the reflection. The wind had picked up during when I took this shot. A storm had rolled in, and as I was taking this, it just started to rain. So the water isn't as clear and still as the last image, but I just like the fact that it's almost as if he was bracing himself for the storm. He's all tucked in, and he's got his feathers ruffled, getting ready for the rain to come down. Very cool image. I photographed hundreds and hundreds of images of this duck, and this was my favorite one that came out. I'm quite proud of this one because Sony actually took notice of this shot, and they reached out to me via Instagram about this. And they had me write an article about how I took this shot and why I took the shot, what was going on, the backstory of it. And then I sent it to Sony, and then it got lost in the mix. Apparently, amongst other millions of images they probably reached out to other people about. But they said they were supposed to write an article or post an article and put it on their Instagram, and I don't think they ever did. But I'm still quite proud of this image. I probably could have edited it a little bit better and got some more detail in his face. Brightened up his face a little bit so you can see his eyes a little bit better. But the colors are great, and I just like, you know, the fact that he's bracing himself for the storm almost. I love watching animals, man. It's just very therapeutic. I highly recommend you guys just grab whatever camera you have, even if it's your iPhone. Just go out and sit in the woods and watch these animals for, you know, as long as you want. It's very therapeutic, and even worst case scenario, you don't see anything but birds, you're still sitting in the woods and just observing everything. And that's one of the things I've learned from wildlife over the years is you almost have to think like a hunter when you're out there. You think of your camera as a gun. You have to understand the behavior of these animals to even get shots of them and get close enough to get shots of them. So just, you know, spend time in the woods and observe what's going on. Pay attention to the sounds of other animals and the wind, and, you know, if it's raining or the sound of the river. You have to take in all these factors. If you notice carcasses, you know, obviously predators are going to go into that carcass. So just be aware of when you're walking through the woods and you pick up on little signs. And there's a reason why Native Americans and early mountain men were so successful with tracking down animals, is because they didn't have cell phones. They had Mother Nature. That was their cell phone. That was their Google, okay? You have to pay attention to your surroundings, and you learn what nature does on a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot of stuff we take for granted with all the noise and everything around us. But really take the time and observe your surroundings, and you learn a lot from Mother Nature for sure. But all right, guys. I babbled on long enough. We're going to leave you all there. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Every Photo Has a Story. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. If you want me to touch back on the Triple Crown trails or doing some macro photography, more wildlife, I can do a video just on birds because I've got a million images of birds. When I've taken just standard landscape shots when I'm not on these trails. So let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. And this is your boy, Affilitiate. We'll holler at you fuckers later.